Election in Tunisia. All that and more right here on the Beaver News.
Edition of the Beaver News. I'm Janessa Kirk.
And I'm Mackenzie Allen. After breaking ground last June, the OSU Track and Field Complex has now begun installation. Natasha Rains of the Daily Barometer reports that the new complex will have a synthetic turf field, grandstands, and will eventually be equipped with all the other facilities needed for the track program. Since the 2004-2005 school year, when the program was reintroduced, the teams have had to practice at the Corvallis High School track or Linus Pauling Middle School. The new track is located next to the women's softball field and is actually the location of the previous track before it became a parking structure. The new track is being paid for through fundraising, and there have currently been between 350 and 400 donations. Currently on the new facility is expected to be finished by late spring or early summer of next year.
Oregon State University apparel design student Amanda Grisham is getting attention by fellow students, professors, and judges. The Portland Fashion Show is usually reserved and won by veteran designers, but on October 5th, Grisham entered the venue and won the show as a student. As reported by Kelly Ward of the Daily Barometer, Grisham had breezed through 2 different auditions with flying colors, and after getting through, she found she was going to be the only student designer to participate in the Portland Fashion Show. Grisham had told Ward that, quote, "I entered the contest thinking it would just be a great learning experience. I never had to struggle figuring out what I wanted to do. Being a designer had been a natural, organic path for me," end quote. She had also stated that much of her success had come from the help of the apparel program at Oregon State University.
After an explosion destroyed their previous vehicle, Odyssey, the Oregon State University Solar Vehicle Team believes that they have fixed the problems in their new vehicle, aptly tamed Phoenix. Alex Hilborn of the Daily Barometer reports that during a test run of Odyssey over the summer, the driver, Nicholas Sitz, noticed flames coming out of the battery and got out of the car just before it exploded and completely burned to the ground. The Solar Vehicle Team, which consists of 30 members across various disciplines, expects to complete Phoenix in the next few weeks, just in time for the American Solar Challenge. The American Solar Challenge occurs every 2 years and pits cars and drivers against one another in a 1,200 to 1,500-mile race across the country. The OSU team has set a goal of finishing in the top 5.
For those of you familiar with the Oregon State University Bookstore, some changes are underway. It is now operating under the name the OSU Beaver Store, and within the next couple of years, it will be placed at a new location. As reported by Gwen Shaw of the Daily Barometer, the bookstore had a 10-year lease with the Memorial Union before the relocation had been established, and with the plans of the construction of the Student Experience Center in the MU parking lot, the bookstore needed to find a new location. There was a meeting held with the Board of Higher Education last week. Brian Thornes, Director of Business Services, said, quote, "The ground lease will enable Oregon State University Bookstore to move from the Memorial Union to the parking lot structure across from Gill Coliseum," end quote. The building will go up next to the parking structure on 26th Street and Washington Way and will begin construction this coming spring and is expected to be finished with construction by summer 2013. Thornes also added that, quote, "The new facility will be about 52,000 square feet of retail and office space to support Beaver Nation."
Over the weekend, the OSU volleyball team was able to end their 7-game losing streak and get a win against the Washington State Cougars. Scott Campbell of the Daily Barometer reports that the 5-set win came after a 3-set loss the evening before to the top-ranked University of Washington Huskies. It was fitting that the win over the Cougs would end the losing streak, considering that it was in Pullman, Washington 3 weeks ago that the streak began. Set scores for Sunday's match were 23-25, 25-17, 23-25, 25-18, and finally 15-7. The Beavers hope to carry the momentum from Sunday's win to this weekend, where they will take on the newest members of the conference, the University of Utah and the University of Colorado right here at home.
On October 20th, 2011, a new study was concluded showing that men have 57% higher mortality rate when experienced to moderate to high levels of stress over a number of years, when compared to men with lower stress levels. The Oregon State University affiliated study also found a few protective factors against high stress levels, including good health and being married. Something interesting that was also found was that moderate drinkers tend to live longer than non-drinkers. Carolyn Aldwin, the lead author of the study, a professor of Human Development and Family Sciences at Oregon State University, had this to say about the study, quote, "So perhaps trying to keep your major stress levels to a minimum, being married and having a glass of wine every night is the secret to a long life," end quote. This was the first study to show a direct link between stress triggers and mortality rate in an aging population, and it was modified to document major stressors that specifically affected middle-aged to older people.
The Political Identity Project at OSU is giving students a way to voice their political views through recordings that will be made available on the Oregon State University iTunes and YouTube channels. Camille Jacobson Ingram of the Daily Barometer reports that the project was created by Christian Mathis after grading papers for a class and realizing how well students were able to write about their life experiences and political theory. The overall goal of PIP is to have students consider their own political identities and become more understanding of the views of those around them, with PIP coordinator Ayla Beyer adding, quote, "This project allows us to get inside the heads, hearts, and histories of students and effectively get to know them on a deeper level. The prompt these students had to speak on really breaks down to what makes them tick as active agents in our society. It opens us up to understanding each other as real people."
Tomorrow between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., the 2011 Fall Career Fair will take place at the CH2M Hill Alumni Center. Put on by Career Services, this career fair is a great place for students of all majors to come, meet prospective employers, and also get experience meeting people in a professional atmosphere. Gwen Shaw of the Daily Barometer reports that there will be a wide variety of companies and organizations looking for future employers. Career Services Director Doug Cochran said, quote, "Now is the time to be connecting with employers. Many students look at the list of attending employers and don't see someone they want. But it's also about connecting with people and finding out what you want," end quote. Some tips for successfully taking advantage of the career fair include being prepared with questions before you attend, presenting what you could potentially bring to the companies, dress professionally and act enthusiastic to be interacting with whoever you are speaking to. Cochran had also added, quote, "Come and make a few connections. Keeping your network alive and continuing to network is key." We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be right back with your national stories in just a few minutes.
Pants, pants, pants. I am folding the pants. The pants are long. Do they go on my head? Do they? Do the pants go on my head? No. They go on.
Everyday moments can become teaching moments because learning starts long before school does. Give your child the start they need at bornlearning.org.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bag your lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Hair loss. Now this rash on my face, what's going on?
For answers, ask your doctor the right question.
Could I have lupus?
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them. Beat them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a
One
dad
more time.
today.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
Welcome back to the Beaver News live on Channel 26. The New York City Department of Education has released a new sex education curriculum, causing some conservative groups to raise complaints. CNN reports that one such group, the NYC Parents' Choice Coalition, held a press conference yesterday to discuss their concerns with the new program, including what they see as a lack of focus on abstinence. The Department of Education responded by acknowledging that abstinence will still be part of the curriculum, but that it will now also be taught along with far more in-depth instruction regarding safe sex practices. New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg supports the change, saying, quote, "We have a responsibility when you have an out-of-wedlock birth rate and a sexually transmitted disease rate that we have in this city to try to do something about it. Shame on us if we don't."
Against the advice of his doctors, Apple co-founder Steve Jobs put off surgery to treat his pancreatic cancer for 9 months. In a CBS News 60 Minutes interview with the biographer Walter Isaacson, when asked why he didn't have the surgery right away, Jobs said, quote, "I didn't want my body to be opened," end quote. Unfortunately, by the time Jobs went in for surgery, his cancer had already spread to the surrounding tissue. CNN reports that his mortality rate was also a huge motivation for Jobs. Before his death on October 5, 2011, he created some of Apple's boldest products in his last final years. Isaacson also had this to say about Jobs, quote, "He said he no longer wanted to go out, no longer wanted to travel the world. He would focus on the products. He knew the couple of things he wanted to do, which was the iPhone and then the iPad. He had a few other visions. I think he would have loved to have conquered television," end quote. In Isaacson's book, simply titled Steve Jobs, he describes Jobs as a driven, eccentric, and sometimes cruel man who grew to be more reflective and fatalistic in his later years.
The Center for Disease Control officially recommended today that males aged 11 to 21 be vaccinated against the human papillomavirus, or HPV. CNN reports that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices said the vaccine, of which there are 3 doses, can be started in boys as young as 9. Though the vaccine has been recommended previously to girls to prevent several types of cervical cancer caused by HPV, the vaccine in males is 89% effective against genital warts, and in males it is 75% effective against anal cancer. There are currently 2 HPV vaccines available in the United States, Gardasil, which was approved in 2006, and Cervarix, which was approved in 2009. At least half of all sexually active people will get HPV at some point in their lifetime, making it the most common sexually transmitted disease in the United States.
On Monday night, the northern lights were visible hundreds of miles further south than they normally would be. CNN scientists are calling an anomaly coronal mass ejection. Northern cities in the United States, such as Seattle or Boston, are usually the most southern limit for the northern lights. But on Monday night, they were seen far south as Oklahoma City, Memphis, and Atlanta. Meteorologists at the National Weather Service's office in Memphis, Jim Branda, said, quote, A storm on the sun's surface was blown off, and the solar wind scattered it. The energy and magnetism interacted with the Earth's atmosphere and the magnetic field," end quote. Many people had tweeted about this event and said it was stunning and wonderful, but Branda said to enjoy it while you can. The Southern Lights show normally only happens once every 3 or 4 years, and if the sky is cloudy, it might only be seen in the southern states once every 10 years.
Miss America contestant Bree Boyce has undergone quite the transformation since high school, when she would shy away from cameras to hide her 234-pound frame. Now 5 years later and 112 pounds lighter, the Miss South Carolina beauty queen no longer hides her body in shapeless clothes and is comfortable to talk about her weight in the public, saying, quote, "I had struggled for so many years with my weight. So many girls look to beauty queens because they want to be like them and look like them. But my thing is that we're all unique and we're all different, and not one person is going to look like the next. And somebody might be a healthy size 6 and an unhealthy size 0." End quote. CNN reports that Boyce struggled with her weight most of her life until getting serious about her health when she was 17. She says she is now happy to be able to give girls a healthy role model in a world where a frail size 00 is seen by some as the ideal.
CNN is reporting that Texas police are on the lookout for a man they believe broke into homes of 4 former members of the same sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and then sexually assaulted them. They believe these attacks took place over the time period of a few months and occurred in the Texas cities of Plano, Coppell, and Corinth. Although no suspect name has been released, Plano police released a video last week that was recorded in April showing a man that they believe is responsible for all 4 assaults. All of the alleged victims are African American females, aged from mid-50s to 60s, had offered similar descriptions of their assailant as a stout African American male aged from his late 30s to mid-40s. Plano police spokesman Andre Smith said the suspect, quote, "made it obvious for our victims that he knew information about them personally," end quote. Although none of the women believed they knew their attacker was before their assaults took place. We're going to take one more final break for the evening, but when we return, we have your international stories.
Horseradish. Is that for horses? Remember me, Mr. Lobster? From last Tuesday? Banana. 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 Here comes the rain. We need a hat. And why do we need a hat?
They got.
That's right.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
When you open a book, you can explore new lands, make new friends, and discover new adventures. There are amazing possibilities when you open your mind to reading. Explore new worlds. Read.
Just put your hands up, TV land. Yo. Paradise is lost, I'm paralyzed by the imperative cause. She's sharing a coffin with the gods that I've crossed. And day by day I'm looking for another outlet. I shout, but I've yet to be heard. The fear of flying, broken wings of a bird. The feelings unnerved, absurd with my words. A pseudo-intellectual that's just dying to serve. A fallen angel, fate filled with flaws and misfortune. Claw marks on the side of the well. The people attempts to torture. Swords drawn to the necks of the demons. Another metaphor, me just trying to protect all my feelings. A criminal dealings led us to the brink that's demonic. Born an angel angel, but I'm bringing back a plate that's bubonic. A prophet like the narcotic product you got up in your pocket with more shock value than an electrical socket. The angel act, I dropped it like the sword of that dude Loki. So while you're on your deathbed, speak those words that you told me. Come on. You told me, you told me, you told me. You told me, you told me, you told me.
Heart disease must for 5,000 miles average.
If you're in danger of losing your home to foreclosure, call today, because nothing is worse than doing nothing.
Have a banana. Eating well and playing go together like best friends.
You better believe it.
With the food pyramid, the bare necessities of living healthy are easy.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
So eat right. Be active.
Now move. That's it.
And don't forget to have fun. That's the way to be the best.
You're lots of fun, Baloo.
At anything you do. You can go to mypyramid.gov to play some games and find out more.
Welcome back to the Beaver News live on KBVR. The first to overthrow its dictator in what would be called the Arab Spring, and they now have another first to add to their list. CNN is reporting that on Sunday, Tunisia became the first country involved in the Arab Spring to hold an election, and even more impressively is the fact that the election is being considered both fair and free by international observers. Millions of Tunisians voted on Sunday for representatives to fill a 217-person assembly whose first task will be to write a new constitution. Mohamed Khamis Janjoubi, the head of the country's election commission, announced on Monday that over 80% of the nation's registered voters cast ballots the previous day, with some waiting 3 hours in lines wrapped around polling stations. This was Tunisia's first national election since it became independent in 1956. Jane Harman, a former U.S. Congresswoman from California, who now heads the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, had this to say about the historic election. Quote, "Tunisia has set a marker here, a marker for what to do from the standing start. They had nothing going on except 2 decades of autocratic, corrupt rule until 9 months ago. This is how you do a fair election. This is how people participate, and this is how you open it to the world to see it."
Early Tuesday morning, Libyan ruler Muammar Gaddafi was buried with his son and defense minister Abu Bakr Yunis at the undisclosed location. CNN is reporting that members of the former leader's tribe were allowed to pray over the body. The 3 bodies had also been available for public viewing from a cold storage unit. A document claiming to be Gaddafi's will was posted on a pro-Gaddafi website on Tuesday, although the authenticity could not be legitimately verified. The document stated that Gaddafi said he wished to be buried in the clothes in which he died, and according to Islamic law, in the cemetery insert next to the relatives. It also stated that Gaddafi asked that his family to be treated well, most especially the women and children. The case of his death is complex, and according to Chief Forensic Pathologist Dr. Othman El-Zintani, there is much more work to be done. The autopsy took place on Sunday, but before the report could be completed, there are still people to be interviewed and a number of locations to be looked at. Mohammed Jibril, Libya's interim prime minister, said, quote, "Gaddafi's right arm was wounded when a gun battle erupted between the anti- and pro-Gaddafi fighters, as his captors attempted to load him into a vehicle. More shooting erupted as the vehicle drove away, and Gaddafi was shot in the head, dying moments before arriving at the hospital in Mastada."
Saudi Crown Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz Al Saud passed away on Saturday in a New York City hospital. CNN is reporting that Sultan, the half-brother of King Abdullah, was thought to be in his 80s, and reports are circulating that he may have been seeking cancer treatments prior to his death. His body was flown back to Saudi Arabia and laid to rest today in Riyadh. The death of the Crown Prince has some questioning what the future holds for the wealthy Middle Eastern nation, as Sultan's more conservative brother, Naif, becomes the next in line to the throne. Naif has been the interior minister since 1975 and has successfully overseen the kingdom's counter-terrorism efforts, including being one of the only countries to fully dismantle a domestic al-Qaeda network, according to Christopher Buchek, a Saudi expert at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace.
CNN reports that a 24-year-old man had been charged with manslaughter on Tuesday in China for the death of Wang Yi, a toddler who had been run over and ignored by the driver. Authorities arrested the driver, a man named Hu Yun, who is from eastern part of the country. He's accused of being one of the two drivers who drove over the 2-year-old on a narrow street in southern China earlier this month. Video was captured by a nearby security camera that showed the drivers, one after another, hitting the little girl in the Foshan, Guangdong province. More than a dozen people passed the toddler as she lay bleeding to death in the busy market area. The girl was eventually pulled aside by a 58-year-old scavenger trying to get help. The video caused a global outcry about the state's morality in China's fast-changing society.
In a sad turn for environmentalists, scientists, and animal lovers all across the globe, the World Wildlife Fund has announced that the rare Javan rhinoceros is now extinct in Vietnam after poachers in that country have killed the last one, presumably for its horns. CNN reports that many in Vietnam believe that the horns can be ground and used for medical purposes, including the treatment of fevers and cancer, though the WWF says that there is no scientific basis for the horns as a miracle drug. In a statement, Dr. Barney Long, WWF's Asian species expert, said, quote, "Vietnam must see this loss as another warning sign of its looming wave of species extinctions. The single most important action that is needed to save remaining threatened species like tigers and elephants is protection." End quote. There is still currently a small population of less than 50 Javan rhinoceros living in Java, Indonesia, but they are now gone for good from Vietnam.
Worried residents and travelers of Cancun are stocking up on supplies as forecasters warn that Hurricane Rina will soon hit the resort city. Carla Bonista, 28, who moved to Cancun 2 months ago from Mexico City, said, quote, "It's my first hurricane. This is new. I'm a little afraid because I don't know what to expect." End quote. CNN reports that Mexican have officials issued a hurricane warning for the east coast of the Yucatan Peninsula from north of Punta Gracia to Cancun, as the Category 2 storm strengthened. As of Tuesday afternoon, Hurricane Rina was packing at 105-mile-an-hour winds and moving at 3 miles an hour, according to the Miami-based National Hurricane Center. Forecasters are predicting that Rina could become a Category 3 hurricane by late Tuesday. Crew members are securing boats and clearing palm fronds and debris at the Cancun Hotel Resort. Lines at supermarkets and gas stations were long in order to stock up for potential dangers, according to residents. Along with the hurricane warning, there's also a tropical storm warning effect from Chetumal to Punta Gracia. The tropical storm conditions are expected by Wednesday afternoon, according to the Hurricane Center. That's all the news we have for you tonight. But be sure to tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock for more local, national, and international news right here on KBVR.